Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers, and you can make it easier on yourself by subscribing and get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live like we are here on Thursday night. If this is your first time listening or watching, you chose a great episode, and welcome. My name is Vince Samperio. That's Jeff Snyder. We've been doing this podcast here for 6 years now, but Jeff and I have both been lifelong Dodger fans and have covered the team in a variety of ways over the last 10 years, writing about the team, covering the team, being in the press box, being in the locker room, talking to players, all that type of stuff. But a lot of it's been talking about the Dodgers, and that's what we're here to do today. And while we will talk about the Dodgers as a whole, I do believe there's one person we are going to talk about more than others. And I'll pull up this comment from Tyler Work because he says, "This is a truly historic day that we'll all remember forever. We'll all be telling our grandchildren stories about where we were the day Zach Logue, or Log, I don't even know how to say it, recorded his first out as a Dodger." So,
yeah. You know, I said yesterday, I felt bad that I missed Zach Logue's entire Dodgers career because I drove my son to a neighbor's house and was gone for 2 minutes. So I missed his whole career. Turns out he got another chance, pitched 2 innings. His ERA is down to 18. This is the Zach Logue episode.
Zach Logue, congrats to you for getting out and not having an infinity ERA as a Dodger. But today's episode is all about Shohei Ohtani because I don't know if you woke up on Thursday and even in your wildest dreams, I don't think anyone could have imagined what we got from Shohei Ohtani on Thursday. If you had imagined 50-50, that was very much plausible, and that did end up happening. But the way it happened, the fact that there was more on top of getting to 50-50, I don't know, Jeff. I think it started off with Ohtani just missing his 49th home run, but then picking up his 50th steal, and it all just kind of went from there.
Yeah, it reminds me of, like, sometimes on Twitter when, people will say, oh, predict Clayton Kershaw's stat line for tonight. And I'll say, like, 10 innings, 34 strikeouts, -6 earned runs, And this is one of those, like, if somebody said, predict Shohei's stat line for today, and I said 6 for 6, 3 homers, 2 doubles, 10 RBIs, 4 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, it would have been, I wouldn't have said that seriously. It would have been joking. Not quite as extreme as the Kershaw example I said, but, yeah, like you said, you would not predict a game like this because a game like this has never happened. A game like this will probably never happen again. And the fact that Ohtani had this game in this moment to send the Dodgers to the postseason, send himself to the postseason for the first time ever, to get himself from 48-49 to 51-51. He had a walk-off grand slam to get to 40-40, and somehow he managed to make it even more dramatic, getting to 50-50. Just ridiculous. And like, it was seriously the kind of game that you will never forget. If you're a Dodger fan, you'll never forget where you were watching. This is our JFK getting shot, or whatever moment our parents talk about growing up. This was, I'm me, I'm a cheesy dad. I watched home run number 50 with my son in our living room, the same son who I was with the day that Shohei signed with the Dodgers. And I had an emotional father-son bonding moment with him back in December. And now 9 months later, boom, that baby that we conceived 9 months ago popped out and hit 50-50 today. And another awesome moment with my son, and dampened only slightly by the fact that I use a childbirth analogy to describe it.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that, and it's mentioned here, is that he didn't get the cycle, but I don't. The cycle would have been cool because it would have been done organically. Like, he tried for the triple even before he hit the home run. But Yeah, it's one of those where you have the 4-1 game. You have Finley's, walk-off grand slam against the Giants. You have the Dodger postseason moments. You have, a lot of different things, absolute madness. Like there's a lot of different things over the years as Dodger fans that you can remember where you were. And it maybe a little less anticlimactic, the fact that it was a Thursday day game. Like, some people might have still been at work and not been able to watch it on TV. But regardless of it all, you're going to remember this day. You're going to remember that. The fact that he got the 50th stolen base. He got the 50th home run. He added one more to each of those totals. I guess we should have known when he had the decoy cleats on that something was going to happen, because that's when he hit number 40 and got to 40-40 is when he had the decoy cleats. And kind of funny that everything, like the cleats, he had to take them off and they got authenticated, and he had different cleats on when he hit the 51st home run. So there was a lot of different things to this game. The fact that it all culminated in the Dodgers clinching a playoff spot. Shohei Ohtani will now officially be in the playoffs for the first time in his career. The fact that the Dodgers got to salute the fact that they made the playoffs, but still haven't had that. I think they're going to save the true celebration for winning the West in terms of getting the champagne out and spraying each other with it. But it was more than you could have asked for in a few different ways, and I don't think anyone would ask for it to happen this way. And we'll break down I'll break down another stat of just how crazy the game was. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where I did not expect to do all this on a Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely. A Thursday day game, which, also makes it, like some people had to hear about it in a text from their dad, like my other son. He was at baseball practice after school and he found out about 50-50 from me in a text. But 348 times a guy's hit for the cycle. 0 times before today a guy's had 50-50. Ohtani's hit for the cycle before. Ohtani will hit for the cycle again. I don't care about that cycle. And there are a lot of people who were hoping after he hit number 49 that he would not hit another one so that he could get to 50-50 at home. For me, I was all about doing it at Lone Depot Park or whatever it's called in Miami, which is where he won the World Baseball Classic 2 years ago, which is, I guess, a year and a half ago. So that's a very special place for him in his career. And I'm excited for Friday, his first at bat at Dodger Stadium. It's going to be like when a player comes back, as a visiting player after leaving a free agency or whatever, and the ovation that he gets. Shohei Ohtani is going to get a standing ovation before his first at bat on Friday. That's going to delay the game, and Dodger fans are going to get to give him all the love that they wanted to give him. Even though they didn't get to see 50-50 in person. For me, this was perfect storybook, and having literally like most RBIs in a game ever by a Dodger. First player ever to have multiple stolen bases in a 3 home run game. 20 guys had stolen 1 base in a 3 home run game. No, not 20 guys. It happened 20 times. Eric Davis did it twice. Nobody had ever stolen 2 bases in a 3 home run game. Tied for the 3rd most total bases in a game ever. Only the 7th player ever to have 17 total bases in a game. 3 of those 7 are Dodgers. Just everything about the game. Joe Davis described it as the best offensive game in history. And when you look at the overall, everything that he did, it's hard to argue with that assessment.
I think the coolest part, and maybe this is a little bit of combination of what my timeline is, but usually if you're on the For You page of Twitter, you can kind of see other things. I haven't seen anything about the fact that the last homer was off a position player. Like, it's one of those things that kind of got overlooked because it's just the greatness that it was. And a couple of stats before we head to the first break right here. So before this season, 31 players had hit 50 home runs in a season. Of those 31 players, only 2 of them have ever had a 50 steal season also in their career, Barry Bonds and Brady Anderson. Now Shohei Ohtani is the first one to have them in the same year. And then the other one that we saw is now there have been players that have had games with 10 plus RBIs, 6 plus hits, 5 plus extra base hits, 3 plus homers, and 2 plus stolen bases. There are 1 player that's ever had all of that in their entire career, not just the same game, but in their entire career. Shohei Ohtani did that all in 1 game today. So it was unprecedented. 50-50 is unprecedented. As a Dodger fan, this amount of home runs in a season, unprecedented. He broke Sean Green's record and extended it, his own record. And, yeah, it's one of those where everything that you can think about in the future, none of that mattered today. And this is the one time I feel like people got to enjoy the moment and did enjoy the moment. And that's the way it should be, especially in the regular season. So.
And he gets to face Rockies pitching 6 times the rest of the season. So here comes 60-60, baby.
Yeah. All right. So more Ohtani talk, a little bit more of the game that did happen. There was other things that went on. So we'll get into all that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, rough racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. So all the parts you need at all the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to be notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube like we are here on Thursday night. If you need something else to listen in your day, you can check out the Locked On MLB podcast with our pal Sully. He's bringing his traditional humor and insight into the game, getting you ready for the postseason. In case you want to know more about just the Dodgers, Sully's got you covered over there. The Locked On MLB podcast, brought to you by the Locked On MLB or Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, which also brings you the Locked On Sports Los Angeles and Locked On Sports Today YouTube channels 24/7. They're running, bringing you the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. The Locked On Dodgers postcast with host Pete Fox is available on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel live after most Dodger games and in our audio feed. So make sure to go check that out. And Jeff, let's get back into Ohtani a little bit. I mean, there's different ways to go about it, but the fact that 50-50 is now accomplished, I'm not going to put it past him for 60-60. Definitely 55-55 is something that can happen. I did, well, selfishly, I'm going out of town this weekend, but I would have stayed for Friday's game and then driven out after that if Ohtani had a chance at 50-50. So maybe a little bit selfishly on that end. I wouldn't have minded if he waited. But I think one thing I've seen a couple comments on it and kind of the vibe around it is Skip Schumacher and the Marlins, who we saw a quote, or maybe not everyone, there was a quote from an anonymous Rockies player about Shohei Ohtani getting a 50-50. And I don't remember the exact quote, but it was basically like, it's not going to happen against us, which if Ohtani had ended on 49 homers and 6 of the last 9 games were against the Rockies, it probably was going to happen to them. But regardless of that, the Marlins, first base was open when Ohtani hit number 50. Like, in theory, the game was maybe out of reach at that point. But if you didn't want it to happen to your team, you could have easily put Ohtani on base. Maybe Mookie would have come up and hit a grand slam, like hit the homer another time and got another hit the other time Ohtani was walked in front of him. But, Skip Schumacher, they showed him in the dugout, and it looked like he said, I'm not going to do that, or I respect him too much to do that. And he basically said the same thing after the game. And, I don't even know who the pitcher's name was, so it's not a –
Mike Bauman.
Yeah, some people might remember that. But, it's always cool to see when baseball just happens on its own terms.
Yeah, Mike Bauman's previous claim to fame was pitching for 5 different teams this year. Now he's forever etched in history, putting his hands on his head as the ball flies over the left field fence for 50-50. Yeah, first base is open for number 49 too. Twice Skip Schumacher had the opportunity to intentionally walk Ohtani. The crowd would have booed, but he absolutely could have said it's the right baseball move to make. In fact, I think, and both times he was a right-handed pitcher, so you would have been giving him the platoon advantage, all those things. And who knows, if the game was closer, and if the game mattered to the Marlins and it was closer, he would have walked it, because it would have been the right baseball move, probably. But just Skip Schumacher, obviously a former Dodger, and I think he's the definition of a gritty baseball player. He's not the kind of guy who's going to intentionally walk somebody. in that situation unless it's actually baseball necessary. So I was very pleased with that. I am reminded that Ohtani could have had 11 RBIs, but I believe there was a wild pitch that scored a run while he was up in one of those at bats, one of those 3 homers.
And for number 50,
I think so. Yeah. Anyway, so he could have had 11 RBIs, but he only got 10. Rough day for Ohtani, but yeah, shout out to Skip Schumacher for making that happen. And Mike Baumann was not happy about giving up the home run. He was upset, but also, you look at Dennis Eckersley, how he has embraced being the guy who gave up Kirk Gibson's home run in 1988. Obviously, that's easier when you're Dennis Eckersley and you're literally a Hall of Fame pitcher. Dennis Eckersley had a better career than Kirk Gibson did, and so it's a little bit easier to feel okay about that. You look at Bobby Thompson and Ralph Branca. They used to go to autograph shows together to sign things because of the Shaw Heard Around the World from 1951. The Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant. Ralph Branca embraced the fact that, hey, I was a part of baseball history. Yeah, it was the crappy part, but I was there. And so I hope that Mike Baumann can enjoy that. I always think of the guy who gave up number 756 to Barry Bonds, Mike Bassick, I think was his name, for the Nationals. Only reason I have ever even heard his name is because he's the guy who gave up number 756 to Barry Bonds. And so, the different guys get into the history books in different ways. And he will be remembered for that. I believe Al Downing is the one who gave up number 715 to Hank Aaron. Al Downing had a good career, but maybe the thing he's most known for. And, there's worse things than being known for a famous home run, even if you're the guy who gave it up.
Yeah. So, there's, I know where I want to take this next.
Before we go real quick, let me just pop up this picture. One kid knew 50-50 was happening today. This picture is, I skipped math to watch history, Ohtani 50-50. This kid showed up expecting at least 1 stolen base and at least 2 home runs today when he skipped school to go to the Dodgers-Marlins game. So shout out to that kid, and more importantly, shout out to that kid's parents.
Yeah, shout out to you. That'll transition well into the next point. So we saw the video, or maybe you haven't. There's a video out there up close of the guy that could have got Ohtani's 50th homer reaching over the railing, didn't quite get to it. The report from Craig Mish, the Marlins beat writer after the game, was that the person that got the ball didn't give it back to the Dodgers. He ended up walking away with it. I'm always hesitant to believe like baseballs can be worth that much, but this is one where you don't only have like people from the U.S. that might want it. Like you have a whole other country of people that might want this ball. And it's not crazy to think that guy's life changed today because he has that 50th home run ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And these were pre-authenticated, unlike the drama over Ohtani's first home run as a Dodger, where the ball couldn't be authenticated because it wasn't caught on the fly. Once it was in the stands, there was nothing they could do to authenticate that thing. This one, every ball was pre-authenticated. So this one is legitimately, and this is legitimate history. First time this has ever happened. Ohtani's first home run as a Dodger. Yeah, there's some value there, but it wasn't his first home run. It wasn't his biggest home run as a Dodger, any of that. This one is literally history. And so I think it makes sense for the fan to want to get money for it. The fan probably bought those seats. I don't know if you buy seats in left field hoping for an Ohtani homer, but once you have it in your hands, yeah, you know what, get what you can for it. And, maybe Ipe will buy it for Shohei. That'll be part of his restitution. I hope Ohtani gets the ball back if he wants it. But also, good for the fan. I hope he gets a lot of money for it if that's what he wants.
Yeah, we saw everything getting authenticated after the fact. The cleats, everything Ohtani was wearing. We saw the base get taken out of the game when he got the 50th stolen base. So there's going to be a lot from this moment, from this game, that's going to come up. But one more Ohtani point, and then I promise we will talk about the rest of the game, because the Dodgers did score 20 runs. Ohtani drove in 10 of them. He did score some other ones, but there was a total of 20 runs scored, and there was a Jack Flaherty start in the mix of that. So we'll talk about them. But one more thing about Shohei Ohtani. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We've talked a lot about FanDuel on here because it's America's #1 sports book. And one reason they're in America's #1 sports book is because they look out for you, the consumer, the fan, the person that is on FanDuel. And right now, you can get something a little different than normal. You're not going to get any special bets, but you can get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV now through September 22nd. All you got to do is bet $5, and that 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket will be yours. And then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season out of market Sunday afternoon game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. So go to FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. Go to FanDuel.com to check out the odds. Go to FanDuel.com to put down that $5 bet and get your 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket now through September 22nd. Only a couple days away from that. So make sure to go do that. Go to FanDuel.com and get America's #1 sportsbook. I want to thank you for being an everydayer if you are one. If you're not an everydayer, you can become one by listening or watching every day. If you aren't ready to commit to that, just add one episode a week, and you'll be hopefully satisfied, and we'll be satisfied, and you can up that even more so as we get into October and hopefully a deep playoff run for the Dodgers. Remember, you can go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. It's a few bucks a month, and you get updated when we get updated about the Dodgers. And you can, if you're not someone that's on social media all day or has a job or something like that, and you can't be on your phone, we got you covered. We'll get you the news you need. So make sure to go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. All right, Jeff, the last point I have for Ohtani, and maybe you'll have another one, but not that it wasn't a question in our eyes, but this all but locks up MVP now, right?
Yeah. After this game, somebody pointed out in the chat, Tyler again, Shohei Ohtani added 0.7 to his Fangraphs WAR just in this game. After this game, he is now ahead of Francisco Lindor in both versions of WAR by a lot in Baseball Reference and by a little in Fangraphs. So the one argument in favor of Francisco Lindor is now out the window. Even the one that overvalues Lindor's defense says that Ohtani has had a better season. Yeah, Ohtani is the MVP. Lindor is hurt right now, I believe. Has he come back yet? I know he was having back problems. So, we'll see if he even plays again this season. I hope he does. But, Shohei Ohtani is the MVP for sure. His OPS is back over 1,000 after this game. Went up by a lot. I know it was, let me see what it was coming into this game. It was 978, and it's now 1,005. So it went up by, 27 points today. So that's pretty good. Hopefully he can keep it up there. The record for stolen bases by a Japanese-born player in a season is 56 by Ichiro. Shohei has a real good chance at catching him there. We mentioned 10 RBIs is the most ever by a Dodger. James Loney and others had 9 in a game, so we passed that. He 17 total bases is tied for the second most in Dodger history, tied for third most in MLB history. This one. 13 times this year, Shohei Ohtani has homered and stolen base in the same game. That ties Ricky Henderson's record for most times in a season. Ricky Henderson, you might have heard, was a pretty solid baseball player. And also Ohtani is the first player ever to drive in more than 8 runs as a leadoff hitter in a game. There's so much in this game, so many different ways you could look at it, that it was just a ridiculous game. And yes, the last homer did come off a position player. Take that homer off, it was still a ridiculous and historic game. And you know what? If you don't want him to hit a home run off a position player, don't go down by 600 runs or whatever you did. So
yeah, I wonder if probably not because of the old times, but Vidal Brujan had to have broken some kind of record for most pitches by a position player, because he came out at 39 pitches. I don't think I've ever seen a position player go that many pitches. So
at least not in one inning, because because sometimes you'll see a guy go 2 innings if it's really out of hand. But that was the Dodgers. They scored 6 in that last inning. You look at it like you mentioned. Shohei drove in 10 runs. Three of his 4 runs scored were also his RBIs, but then he scored a 4th run. So 11 of the Dodgers' 20 runs were either scored and or driven in by Ohtani. That means the rest of the team still scored 9 runs. The non-Dodgers or the non-Ohtani Dodgers won this game 9-4. And, that's 9 runs, which we've talked about several times. That's a good number to score. Plus Ohtani had the best game ever. So it was really nice. Andy Pye has had a good game too.
Yeah. And that comes with Mookie had 1 hit. Freddie had no hits. Will Smith had no hits. So it was the bottom of the order that was getting on. Like Ohtani, we talk about not hitting with runners in scoring position or when runners are on base, but today he did do that. And the bottom of the order was getting on base. Tommy Edman had a couple hits and a couple RBIs. Max Muncy had a couple hits. He scored 4 times because he walked a couple times. Lux had a couple or one hit, couple RBIs, 3 walks. And Pages had a couple hits, 3 RBIs. Chris Taylor had just the 1 hit and 1 RBI. But the 1 hit and 1 RBI was what got Ohtani to bat that last time and give him a chance to get that 50-50. So, or 51-51. So it was a team effort on the offensive side. The game got out of hand a little bit early, and the Dodgers kept pouring it on. So, for the Dodgers, this is now 5 straight games that they scored at least 8 runs. So, and they got double that this time. So they're in a good spot right now. They're going to face the Rockies the next 3 games. Someone asked me how I felt about the Padres series at this point. The Dodgers are up 4 with 9 games to play. That Padres series shouldn't matter. The Dodgers would have to lose all 3 games this weekend for maybe a little bit of concern, and the Padres have games in order for there to be general concern for that series. I'm hoping that series won't matter at all. Or the Dodgers just have to win 1 to for sure. Like the magic number should like around 2 or 1, 3, 2 or 1 around that point. So it wouldn't really matter. But yeah, Jack Flaherty got the start. Was having a really efficient game. And I saw people tweeting about his velocity there in the 5th inning was down a little. 4th and 5th inning, maybe it was down a little bit, and maybe thinking that it was by nature of the fact that they were up by a lot of runs, and he wanted to maybe just get through this lineup. And he was very efficient up until that point. He started giving a couple runs. He upped it back a little bit in that 6th inning, and gave the Dodgers 6 innings, which is more than important these days.
For sure. And then the offense let them, I said in like the 5th inning, when it looked like, okay, Flaherty's only going to get through 6, I said in a Discord group I'm in, well, the offense need to score a bunch of runs so that Zach Logue can come in again. And so, yeah, Evan Phillips pitched the 7th inning, and then Logue pitched the 8th and the 9th. And it's weird to say Logue because my son is Logan and we call him Logue. But my son has a better ERA than 18. But it was, yeah, they did exactly what they needed to do. And Flaherty gave up 2 home runs. That was the 3 runs, but it was a solid start and saved the bullpen, got the bullpen back in. After Flaherty's last start, we will take six innings, 3 runs. It's not elite, but even in the postseason, we will absolutely take 6 innings, 3 runs from Jack Flaherty, because as long as the offense shows up, that'll be enough. As for this weekend, I talked a little bit about this yesterday. The Padres do get to play the White Sox now. And so the Dodgers ideally would just take the Rockies to the woodshed the next 3 games and sweep them. Because if the Dodgers can maintain this 4-game lead heading into the Padres series, then the worst case scenario is the Dodgers still have a 1-game lead going into a series against the Rockies, while the Padres have to play the D-backs, who will probably be fighting for either their playoff lives or playoff positioning, home field advantage, all those different things. The Padres are going to have a much tougher last series. And so my goal for the Dodgers this weekend is to just pound the Rockies and head into that series with the Padres with at least a 4-game lead in the division, because then I feel like it's pretty much sewn up.
Yeah, I feel like some people pounded some Rockies on Thursday after Ohtani did all that. So, again, there was a lot to be excited about. Again, it's a game against the Marlins on the schedule, but it's never been done before. It doesn't matter who. A lot of players have played a lot of bad teams, and this was something that was never done before. And then on the season, obviously, something that's never been done before. So it's fun to be excited. Like, it's one of those things. Us as Dodge fans, they clinched the 12th straight playoff appearance in a row. 11 of those, well, assuming this one gets done, 11 of those will have been as NL West winners. And it's easy to get maybe jaded or spoiled or a lot of different things as a Dodger fan in sense of regular season and accomplishments and everything else. But this is something that's unprecedented. Like, we've never seen this before in our lives. In baseball, there's people much older than us, and they've never seen this before in their life. So it's fun to enjoy a moment. And Ohtani, I think, has brought back maybe some of those moments, some of that joy, even in such a season that's been annoying at times and, not as fun at times because of all the injuries and everything else that's gone on. And even right now, like looking forward, you still have to patch together a rotation in your mind to really and really hope that someone steps up, or, the Dodgers offense can be the catalyst for a deep October run. But in the moment on Thursday, none of that mattered because we got to see greatness. Whether you were there in person, whether you're watching on TV, whether you saw highlights after, whatever the case was, it's something that, it was really fun as a baseball fan. And then we get to be Dodger fans on top of that. And it makes it that much better.
It would have been fun even if we didn't care about the game. The fact that it's our team, our player, made it so much better. Ohtani had the 2 hardest hit balls of this game, 4 of the 5 hardest hit, and 5 of the 9 hardest hit. His 6th one was only 97.1 miles an hour. That was his single. So he had 6 hard hit balls. Joe Davis mentioned after the double that was like Ohtani's 15th hardest hit ball of the season and the Dodgers' 15th hardest hit. And I think he said Ohtani has the 31 or 35 hardest hit. I think it was 31 hardest hits for the Dodgers this year. Well, one of his or his double was harder than that. 2 of his home runs were right up there. So I would guess he had at least 3 or 4 more hits today that were harder than any other Dodgers hit the ball this year. It's just ridiculous. And that's why we always say, like, the thing about Ohtani is you have to watch every at bat because he can make history in any given moment. He could do something that a human being shouldn't be able to do. And that's a lot of fun to see in Dodger blue.
Yeah. One quick note. I saw Andrew Friedman said that the scheduled talk with Ohtani is about his rehab as a whole, not about specifically pitching in October. He still doesn't believe that's something that is feasible. But again, it's fun for us to think about, and it's hard for me to not think that the Dodgers are in the World Series and it's down to they need 3 outs and there's 1 arm out there. We might see Shohei Ohtani take that.
If they're out of arms. We'll see. Yeah.
Or if it's between like Joe Kelly, Michael Grove, or Shohei Ohtani and you need 3 outs.
Maybe.
Hopefully Michael Grove's not there, but you never know.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, anything else? We've been talking about Shohei Ohtani for 30 minutes here, and it still doesn't feel like enough, but I think we've gotten the main points out.
Yeah, I wish that we were allowed to do hour-long episodes, but the network says keep it to 30, so we're keeping it to 30. But the good news is we do these 5 days a week, so I was kind of hoping he would wait for the weekend just so that we could do a bonus episode this weekend, but you know what? We'll be back Sunday night, and that's better than nothing, right?
Yeah, he could be at 55 by then, so we'll see what happens. But thank you all for listening. That's going to do it for today's episode. We appreciate everyone that was here. I think this might have been our record concurrent listeners on a live episode, maybe. So
definitely for during the season. I think maybe early when they first signed Ohtani, I think we did a live episode that got several hundred. But this is since we started doing them regularly, I think this is one of our biggest for sure.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live. You can check out Locked On MLB podcast with our pal Sully. He's getting ready for the MLB postseason with his insight and humor. So go check that out. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, which also brings you Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. Locked On Dodgers Postcast with host Pete Fox is available on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel live after most Dodger games. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. We're more active there these days, so make sure to go check it out and engage there. You can find Jeff on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us with any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or leave us a voicemail. Send us a text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, tear smart device, play a podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you Sunday night.